So you have picked viola as your instrument. What a great choice. So we have this book, PDF book, that's free from Austin Strings. You can just email austin.strings@gmail.com and request a copy if you don't have it. If you don't have a way to print it out, go ahead and ask for a hard copy and we'll send it to you in the mail. It's like $4 or $5. And so the first thing I'm going to do, so it's called the Viola Case. It's this short 20-page for very new beginners. So it's part of helping you to note read and navigate the beginning of your music. We used to do a couple of lessons with each rental, which because of the pandemic we haven't been able to do in person. So we've got this just a little book and a YouTube video course that you can follow along with. The first thing I'm going to do is check my strings and see if they're in tune. If you're a new beginner, do not tune your instrument until you have a little bit of a knowledge about tuning, and your ear training is pretty good. But if you have a tuner that will listen to you and tell you when you're in tune, and you have a general idea of what you're listening for. So there's the A and D. I'm using Pythagorean tuning on my instrument, so it'll be a couple of cents off. As we go down, because we don't use tempered tuning on these instruments, which we'll explain later. But if you're in tune, then let's go ahead and flip the page and do the little bit of introduction to the Viola Case. So the introduction to this book, you have basically 20 pages, few just very well-known folk songs in duet form, and some beginning exercises to help you get started with the bow and pizzicato. The first page talks about concepts that if you're ready for music, if you're a parent and you're wondering if your child is ready for music education, if your child knows some of these concrete and non-concrete concepts, then they're ready, and you can read the sentences there. Then if you look at this page will kind of show you what a music teacher knows just as easily as you know page 1. A music teacher looks at these concepts here and knows all of them very well. So these are the things, some of them, that you will learn in this book and or down the road. I want you to be aware that music is a skill. It's not something you're born with. You need to learn it. So getting a teacher is a very important thing. And then let's go right in to page 3. And we'll introduce what's called the staff, the clef sign that viola plays in, and measures and quarter notes and your open string. So we've got a lot of concepts we're learning on this page. It's very important that you start kind of slowly. The goal is to get all of these things in your long-term memory, and have you learning this long-term memory, so that every time you turn a page or add a new concept, you're actually stacking learning on top of itself, and you're not having to go, what was that again? What was that again? So we're going to move a little slow in the beginning in order to get some very basic music education started, and then we gradually build on that to become a, more, I would say, prolific, or if you think about being in language, you become, the word is escaping me, could be an aging thing, but when you know English really well, you're confident in it and you know it. And we're going to get you to that point where you're a fluent musician, where you really understand music and you're fluent at it. So viola plays in a C clef, and it's called the alto clef, and middle C is identified where the two half circles kind of meet in the center. So that very center line is middle C. And it looks like an old-fashioned kind of B if you look for it. It's right here. It's always the first thing that you come into. So every line of music is going to have your clef sign, and in viola it's called the alto clef, which is a C clef. Then we have 5 horizontal lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. I miscounted over here. And in between those lines, you have a vertical line after every 4 of these black dots with the stem. So these black dots with the stem are called quarter notes. Then this vertical line is called a measure line. And the measure line will come in time signature 4/4. That's what this 4 stacked on 4 means. It means that you will have 4 1/4 notes or quarter notes in every measure. So if you look, every measure has just 4 quarter notes, then a vertical line. Down here, this double bar line with the 2 dots is called a repeat sign. The repeat sign will send you back to the beginning. The idea is that when you're practicing this, you repeat it as many times as you need to until you have it. Then this is called an internal repeat sign. These 2 dots go back to this repeat sign. So there's small sections of this that you can just kind of repeat yourself. The idea being is that you don't want to just rush through this, where we've got to learn a visual of looking at the music, how it sounds in your ear, where it is on your instrument, and how long that note is going to be. So we'll set up a specific beat, and then these notes, see how these are all on the top space of your staff? That's your open A. Then if we go down to this space, to below the top, that's your open D. Then the bottom space is open G, and 1 ledger line on the space below that first ledger line below the staff is your open C. And these are all the open C's on the viola. So I'm going to swing you around, and for now you're going to just set your bow aside because we won't be using it today. I would leave your bow either out of the case or in sunlight. There are certain parts of the countries, especially if you live in the south, we have these little things called bow bugs, and they're little weevils, and they will eat the hair on your bow if you leave it in a dark space. So it's a good idea to just leave your bow out. So let's introduce these strings. So on my instrument, I play on a 15-inch viola that has 5 strings. So it has the violin E string on it, so I can go between violin music and viola music fairly simply. So I want you to just ignore this string because you won't have that one. You'll have these 4 strings. Top string is A, second string D, third string G, and fourth string C. And the viola is kind of maybe the tenor of an orchestra. If you think about a choir, you're going to have sopranos, altos, tenors, and basses. And the viola kind of plays that mid-range tenor part. Very beautiful instrument. One of the biggest reasons why I play on a 5-string viola with an E string is because I get that warm depth of a viola, but I also have the E string so I can play up high if I need to play more stuff. Plus it's a little bit longer. I'm a cellist, actually first and foremost, as far as going to school and stuff, but but I played violin as a kid, and then I've morphed into this as an adult. So the first thing we're going to do is do a basic kind of setup for your instrument. And we're going to do all of our lessons sitting down because my camera is set up sitting down. And in an orchestra, you will sit down. In your private lessons with a teacher, you might stand up. Don't worry about that too much at this point, but at school, you'll be sitting down. It's rare that at school they stand up, so we'll do the sitting down thing. You're going to take your left hand from a music store. This is super important on viola because violas are longer and heavier than violins. Regardless of what size you have, if you have a 13, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 inch, I'm an adult, but a 15 inch is about as long as I can manage on viola. If I get to 15 and a half or 16 inch, my elbow can't relax over here, and I'll explain that in a little while, but I'm not sure what size of instrument that you'll have, so this will vary just a little bit, but shoulder rests are really important on viola. Because of the extra weight on the instrument, you've got extra tension that comes across here if you're using too many muscles on your neck and your shoulder to keep this up in the right position. So I would recommend that you go to a music store, make sure that you have a shoulder rest that fits you and fits your instrument really well. So shoulder rest, whatever shoulder rest you have, most of them are pressure fit. So you'll put it on the back of the instrument and then slide this over. One side is usually higher and one is lower. This side goes up on your shoulder. I use the Bond Musicas. They're expensive. I've had mine probably since 2000, so they last forever as well. But they wrap around the back of your shoulder and you can bend all of this. I'm not going to do any of that, obviously, bend it, but then it fits directly to your body and however much space you have between your clavicle and your chin. And then you want to make sure that your neutral position here and this arm is also neutral. So if you hang your arm down to your side and just turn your hand up and come up, you want the instrument to be there. So you don't want it to be over here, so you have to use muscles, or too much in front of you, so you have to use these muscles to get your arm. You want your arm to just come up very relaxed. So it just comes up, and it would be there if you were just sitting and went like this. That's where your arm would go. Here you have to use more muscles. Here you have to use more muscles. So just make sure that that's just a turn your hand to the side, bring it up, and that's where your instrument will sit. So shoulder rest, very important. I would go to a music store or to your private teacher when you can get face-to-face and make sure that you have that really fitted. Your chin rest is super important on the viola as well. They make them so that they can come over. You can even make them so they come way up here, so you get less length in your arm, so you can get a longer instrument. So they kind of sit down here, which a lot of people that's very comfortable for because the bodies of violas can get really big. I find that for me that this is very comfortable. Not today for some reason. Let me see what I've done. There we go. So sometimes this will have to sit a little bit higher and this a little bit lower in order for people to be really comfortable. It's something to play around with. So, hand wave to me, put it on your shoulder of your instrument. So this is your left hand, this is your right hand. So you're looking at me from a mirror image, so make sure you're doing mirror image left and right. So left hand goes on the shoulder, instrument goes on the knee. You're looking straight ahead, very neutral. Then just take this arm and rotate it up. So you're not going to move your shoulder or anything, you're just rotating that wrist, and then come straight into your body. You want as little motion here as you need, so then everything, just when I was a kid, I remember my teacher saying, take a bite with your chin on your instrument. And there you are. For right now, that left hand is going to stay on that shoulder because we're just going to do open strings today and quarter notes. So now wave to me with your right hand and then turn and put your thumb on the edge of your fingerboard while you're still pointing down the string. You're going to pizzicato the string with the side of your finger, not with the tip, but with the side. So your fingers are going to kind of still neutral when you bring your hand up. This is using lots of muscles in your shoulder. If you try that, you can feel your shoulder engage. Here you've got this arm coming up. It's very relaxed. Thumb on the side, relaxed. You don't have to put any pressure on that thumb. It's just resting right there. Then we have pulling the string to the side. This is called pizzicato, and that's that name at the top of page 3, pizzicato finger bells. So we're going to pull to the side, and that's your D, and that's your G, and C. So let's go ahead and give it a shot to play the first line. So we have 4 A's. This is your beat, quarter note beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll play on the next measure. So 1, 2, ready, play. 1, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 4, and C. 2, 3, 4. Now you have another measure of C's. Now, just like in reading, we're going to pause here. We're going to go on to the next line. Just like when you read in a book, you'll go here, then the next line is here to here, next line here to here. And if you look at this, then we have 4 G's, 4 D's, 4 A's. I want you to say the notes out loud as you play. Look at your music as you play. It's a pattern, but it's really important that you learn this pattern in a certain way so that you remember where the note is on your instrument, where it is on the staff, and what the name of the instrument. And then, you know, you're also hearing what it is, and you're doing a certain beat. So that's very important. Let's look on to measure 12. Oh, wait, sorry, measure 6, 7, 8, 9, where you go from 4 of each to 2 of each, same pattern. Then in measure 13, we go 1 of each, down and back up. And in music, if you go down on the staff, the pitch goes down. If you go up, the pitch goes up. And then in these measures, there's a mix-up where you're going to skip strings in between and different patterns. This is to help your brain just kind of mix it up a little bit so that you really get this knowledge of these open strings in your head. It's a good idea to spend every day for a week on this page, even though you're like, oh, this is easy, I got this. This is foundation, and sometimes a foundation needs to cure for a little while. A builder may pour the footings for the foundation and then let them sit for a month because they have to be really hard and solid in order for the wall to get built upon those footings. Music is a lot like that. If you move too fast, sometimes you won't have the foundation that you need to go on. I think math is a good example of this. A good math teacher won't let you go on to division and multiplication until that teacher knows that you have your addition and subtraction down and you've got it. Because going on to the next level without having that proper foundation makes multiplication, and then if you don't know your multiplication, division is a nightmare. And We don't have calculators as musicians, so it's just important that you learn this. It's just like learning how to read. You learn your alphabet first, then you learn words, then you learn sentences, and music is a lot like that. And my goal for any of my students would be to be fluent, to know your notes, because honestly, as a string musician, the biggest thing that you can have as a skill is to be able to sit down, they plop the music in front of you, and you play. Because that's what happens. Sometimes you get a rehearsal, sometimes you don't. You just, practice at home and then go and you play. So I am so excited for your journey and your beginning journey on viola this week. Make sure you've got this set up comfortably. If you don't have a good shoulder rest, make sure you get one. We want all of your tendons and your muscles to be able to be relaxed so you can play for hours and hours at a time. And we're not doing our left hand fingers yet, so just let them rest here. And then work on your pizzicato. In the measure, practice writing open strings and quarter notes, and my bells ring like this. Just write your own song and then play it. Your goal this week is to get those open strings learned really well. And congratulations on picking the viola. What a great choice. It's a super wonderful instrument. A good friend of mine calls it the soul of the orchestra, and I always think when she says that, that's a beautiful way to describe it.